All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad we're doing this. This is in place of our, not in place, in addition to, excuse me, our December board meeting. But, I remember our first quarterly board meeting that I presided over in September. I kind of took people's temperature to see if, in fact, they would be interested in perhaps an orientation session. And that was born out of some of my conversations with some of our newer members. But I always figure it's good to have a refresher course every once in a while. I know most of us, this is not our day job. There's some people on this Zoom call that are RochesterWorks staff that it is, but I'm on a few boards, and having a refresher course is never a bad thing, just to kind of remind the work we do, how we do it, all the W's at play. So this is not intended to be a mandatory thing moving forward, but we are recording it. And I think it's good to have at disposal for members, just so you know what you're doing and some of the consequences and the responsibilities inherent in being members of our workforce development board. So I just want to thank you all for being on. This is a good turnout, which is very encouraging. So I'm going to start the slideshow. 1 second. Can everyone see the slideshow? Sometimes I have two monitors, so it comes up as the preview and the other one is are you seeing the slideshow on the shared screen? Okay, yes. Thanks, Melissa. All right.
Yeah, Dave, we're seeing the wrong side of it though. We're seeing the wrong screen.
Are you seeing a preview?
We're seeing your preview, yeah.
Yeah, all right, 1 sec. This happened on another call. I gotta really figure this out. Let's try this one. Is that any better?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lee. All right. So who we are, RochesterWorks. Just let's get a little started from the beginning. Physically, we are a organization of about 55 employees that is divided up in 4 locations, which I think I've been frank with our board members long term. We might want to change and consolidate, but for now, we are in 4 locations. Our primary kind of flagship location, which we have the most staff, is our Comprehensive Career Center located at 100 College Avenue. For some of you older board members who have been here for longer than a year or two, this replaced the 255 Goodman Career Center. We moved out and moved in during the pandemic. We're now fully staffed and fully in operation. That's open to the public now, which we're very encouraged by, and starting to pick up. And there, we'll get into a little bit more of the services that people expect there. But that really is the one-stop shop career center, where any resident can ideally come in and get started on a pathway towards career advancement, starting a career, gaining skills necessary towards building a career. And that's really where the bulk of our work occurs. Starting in 2022, our business services division will be located there. We'll be moving them from our location at 75 College Avenue. We also have our youth services, which serves customers between the ages of 13 and 24 at 57 St. Paul Street. That is co-located with the City Recreation Department, which makes a lot of sense because we do a lot of similar things and things in collaboration with the city. And frankly, that's a relationship we're really looking to build upon in the coming years. And so Antoine Williams leads the staff over there along with Theo Jordan, both of whom are on the call. And I'll just note Beata Carter leads the 100 College Avenue Career Center. 691 St. Paul. That's a joint operation with Monroe County. It's operated under an agreement with the County Department of Human Services. We serve primarily those receiving temporary assistance. We provide a lot of the similar services and have similar resources such as a careers resource room, a computer lab that you would find at our 100 College Avenue and 57 St. Paul location. But that's serving primarily what we would call the welfare to work population, those receiving temporary assistance that we want to provide career pipelines to. And then finally, at 100 College Avenue, we have our central administrative staff on the 4th floor of the United Way building. And I promise I take these stairs every morning, perhaps not every afternoon, but every morning. All right, so RochesterWorks, who the heck are we? We were established in 2004. We provide employment and training service to Monroe County through 3 local career centers, which I just described, and 1 specialized youth employment service center. We are a registered 501c3, and we provide a unique set of customized services to businesses and job seekers at little to no cost, preparing the workforce and connecting them with the opportunities in our region. In doing that, we are the fiscal agent for Monroe County. We are designated by the county through a joint agreement with the city of Rochester, and we are designated to administer federal workforce development funds. And on behalf of Monroe County Rochester Workforce Development Board, we manage approximately $7 to $9 million in employment and training resources. I included a joint slide here as who we're not. You know, a lot of times we get calls from employers and they say, I have a need for staffing. We're not a staffing agency. Do we provide similar services that are inherent in a staffing agency? Of course. Do we connect job seekers with career pathways? Yes. Do we work with employers and have opening positions where we try to connect our customers? Of course. But that's not our primary core function. We really want to provide a full array of services towards an individual, because at the very least, at the basic, if someone asks you what the Workforce Development Board does and what RochesterWorks does, our job is to make sure that the workforce in Monroe County is ready and able to meet the demands of the economy. And that's the current economy, and also looking forward at where the future needs of our economy will be. Our job is to make sure that the workforce can meet those demands of our business community. Now, it's also, in doing that, we are providing economic opportunity and economic independence for county residents, providing career pathways. So in many ways, we are an anti-poverty organization, but we're not a job placement agency. That's what we always try and say from the start. So what's a workforce development board? Local workforce development boards, according to the state of New York and federal government, serve as the backbone of the statewide workforce development system. So good for you. Local boards develop strategic plans to match employers with qualified candidates and deliver skill-based programs through one-stop shop career centers to job seekers. That strategic plan looks at employment needs. It looks at growing industry sectors. It looks at industry sectors where there's a disconnect between workforce and demands of the economy. Our last plan was adopted. We actually facilitate 2 plans. One is our county plan, and then we have a regional plan that we do with our partners over in the Genesee, Livingston, Orleans, Wyoming, Glow region, and then the Finger Lakes region. Those were both adopted and re-upped in the summer of this current year with your support. Altogether, there's a total of 33 local workforce development boards throughout New York. Ours covers Rochester and Monroe County. So we're a county workforce development board. Some are consolidated into multiple counties, as is the case with our neighbors to the east and west and south. Federal law governing, this was a big change, and I'll get into WIOA in a little bit. The federal law governing workforce development boards now provides that a majority of the membership must come from the business community. And that's, again, part of a strategy to assure workforce initiatives align with economic development. All right, so the governing structure, 30 to 40 members. At present, I think we're at 35. Lee, nod your head if that's right.
I think 34, because
34.
we've got one to backfill. But once it is backfilled, we'll have 35.
So our sweet spot is 35. And again, a majority must come from the private sector. We do have elected positions. We have a board chair, who's Sergio Esteban, who's been there since probably before RochesterWorks existed, as is his partner in crime, George Shar. If you want to think of the kind of the 2 OGs of the RochesterWorks, and there's others, of course, that have been integral, but Sergio and George have been such longstanding leaders in this regard. And relatively new to our our kind of elected positions is Bert Brinkerhoff as our treasurer. We also have 3 committees, which you would consider an executive committee. That's audit and also has audit and finance incorporated into it. Workforce innovation and performance, and youth. The youth committee does include non-board members. That's something Antoine leads, and includes community stakeholders that, you know, are integral and who we rely on for counsel in determining priorities with our youth structure. And generally our meetings are held quarterly. That obviously can change. We can have extraordinary meetings that need that as they come up, but our regularly set meetings are quarterly. And I'll note you have one on the 21st, and I hope this does not count as attendance towards that. So we need to always have a quorum. So your attendance is always appreciated. So I already outlined a little bit of this, but responsibilities of the board, again, look at local job market, ensuring the allocation of workforce development resources aligns with the needs of the local economy. That goes without saying. You approve the expenditure of WIOA, which is Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act funds, and other federal workforce funds, as well as some state and funds that we receive. You adopt the 4-year local workforce development plan for the region, which we discussed. And you oversee one-stop shop career centers, which serve unemployed job seekers, incumbent workers searching for better career paths. You also hire an executive director, so thank you for that, I suppose, earlier this year. And most importantly, I would say, you know, you're not a legislative body, but you are really our governing body for this local workforce development region. And in doing so, you develop bylaws for the Workforce Development Board, policies and procedures governing the delivery and prioritization of workforce services for the region. An example of policies and procedures would be our gun violence prevention program, which was adopted at our September meeting, which really created an outline and policies and procedures for the implementation of $2.25 million of state funds targeting youth living in areas impacted by gun violence. These bylaws must be in accordance with state and federal laws and guidelines. Lee Kozlow is our technical and training advisor. Our manager. He's put together a nice overview of the bylaws. I don't expect you to memorize them, but I know that it's understanding that you might want to understand kind of what some highlights are. So we'll send that after the fact to you, so you have kind of a broad overview of what our bylaws say and what they really charge you with. So general meeting structure, I just included in this just because, you know, we always want to stay on task. Up here it says 8 to 9:30. I've made it clear that my goal is always to have you out in under an hour, but an hour or less. But you know, we generally pencil it into 9:30. You know, if you're on other boards, nothing kind of out of the ordinary here. You know, items for board action will always vary. You know, at this month's meeting, we'll have included in the financial report, we'll have our audit presentation. We do like to have management updates, which we're trying to make more efficient. And that's basically just to give you kind of a from the field report as to what's going on with our public facing sites. So again, my goal is to make sure these meetings run smoothly and efficiently. And, you know, our September meeting was somewhat jam-packed. We had a lot of items for board action. We had a lot of updates from the new executive director trying to impress his board. But again, our goal is to move those along efficiently and also package the information for you in a manner that is easy to read. And we always open to suggestions for that. I will say, I understand you're in your day jobs and you're shuffling and you get the attachments to the calendar item and you want to make sure you're able to just follow the meeting and prepare efficiently. So we are always open to suggestions to how to make that easier for you as our board. All right, so that's a little bit about the governing structure. And I'll just say, if you have questions, and Laura, I'll ask you to kind of be attentive to this, please. If you have questions, put them in the chat, or just, you know, we're a small enough group. If you want to just interrupt me, you're more than welcome to. This is not a huge group, so we can conduct it in that manner. So what do? We currently have a staff of about 50 professionals. It's a little larger now, all of whom are part of a system that's structured to help anyone who enters through our doors attain a job or career advancement. So I'll just say this, that really is the essence of what we do. It's, if you walk through one of our career centers or engage with our services, our goal is to make sure we are having an outcome that is positive and advancing somebody towards a career pathway or career advancement. We deal with all sorts of people that can, I say this, one of the challenges of our workforce system is knowing that there are really countless number of scenarios under which someone might enter through our doors. And our goal is to have a system that is adaptable and is fitted to suit all people with those kind of, I guess, the realities that they're living with, whether it's their education level, whether it is their other barriers that might exist in their lives. Our goal is to make sure we have a system set up that can provide pathways for all people who enter through our doors. We work with numerous community-based organizations, many of whom are on this call on our board, who like the sub-recipients of funding, particularly serving our youth, which I'll get into in a little bit. They provide services on our behalf, but with our supervision. We do have to do a lot of sub-recipient monitoring. That's something that the State Department of Labor really tasks us with, which is important because it's federal dollars and state dollars that we want to make sure are spent with accountability and in accordance with state and federal guidelines. So at our Career Center at 100 College Avenue, so career advising is really the bread and butter of what we do. You know, if you're making an appointment with one of our career advisors, they're going to do an initial assessment, and they're going to look at what your kind of scenario is, what your skills are, but also what interests the person might have. And from there, it's developing a plan that either includes job training or job placement or other soft skills that can really encompass a whole variety of things. But career advising is really the bread and butter of what we do. It's what we want to be getting more into as people are re-engaging into our workforce and economy. We have a resource room, which is very popular. A lot of people that we serve don't have access to technology at home, so they rely on us to have either use the computer. We have a lot of people right now using our computer lab and resource room to navigate the unemployment insurance system. So it's important to have that access. One thing we're very proud of is our e-learning and on-demand workshops. We do a lot of them, and I always one thing we need to do is make sure you're aware of what exists. And I'm assuming you get some of our email correspondence, but we do a lot of particularly e-learning, and they are fantastic. And the e-learning, it's obviously in its nature is there. It can be used at any time, and really can help provide a lot of valuable services to our customers. But our workshops are fantastic as well. During COVID, we really kept them up, and they were very popular. We actually had people attending from outside of Monroe County, which I assume is fine because it doesn't cost us anymore. We won't be doing that for in-person. Obviously, our residents are always first priority. But our workshops are fantastic, and they can vary from anything from resume prep to interviews, to soft skills, to personality assessments, really help people learn a lot about themselves, as well as how best to navigate the workforce system. We do provide training grants, a lot of them, funding up to $5,000 for individuals pursuant to the WIOA, Federal Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. That can cover training costs at many area colleges, universities, vocational schools, proprietary training institutes. So we have training partners on a qualified training partner list that we adopt and promulgate, and it includes probably I think at least 24 training partners that again are providing pathways to those careers that we know are in demand and important to our economy. The Job Strategy Group is actually a very cool an initiative. It's really kind of works in a small group setting with a small cohort, but really allows people to share best practices and have peer advising counseling. Very, very cool. And I got into the workshops Here's just some of them, and I kind of combined with the e workshops, but it's a pretty diverse topics that we provide, and those are primarily done at our Career Center at 100 College Avenue. And we are getting more back into in person. It's challenging because, as Viata might attest, people might still be preferring to be doing the Zoom. So one thing we're looking to do is see if we can have hybrid formats for that.
Hey, Dave, we did get a question from Melissa about the e-learning workshops to find out if they're available on demand and if they're available for all the public or if you have to be enrolled in the programming to attend.
So I'll answer that in Viata. If I mess up the answer, please interject. You do not have to be WIOA enrolled to participate in the on-demand workshops. A lot of these actually are just available on our website as well. They're pre-recorded, so you go through the e-learning portal. I've actually wanting to learn. I actually went through a lot of the e-learning portals, so I am not WIOA enrolled and was able to do it. Viata, did I hit that on the head of the nail, or did I miss something?
No, that is correct.
Okay, thank you for the question, though. So our 5 Steps to Rapid Employment is a very innovative program that we offer. It's a step-by-step approach to career development. It's live, instructional, and you're in a small cohort. And this is done with really a subscription that we have to the program. We pay for the program, but we really cater it to our local needs. And we see very good outcomes with this. We like to measure our outcomes, and the 5-Step Rapid Employment really speaks for itself. We see people increase their earning substantially. And it's something that we always like to be able to scale up, but I'm very happy with the 5-step program. It's really kind of one of our flagship offerings that we have. And the Ticket to Work program allows Social Security recipients trying to go back to work without the risk of losing their Social Security benefits. So it's an incentive to go back to work. It's a very, very good program that we like to utilize, and that's done with pretty direct counseling from a career advisor. So that's really our primary beehive is 100 College Avenue, and you're welcome there anytime. It's starting to pick up again. We've been there, our staff was very good in moving during COVID and came back, and we're very pleased with how they've been able to step up. And I'll note, and I'm going to get into business services in a second, but business services will be moving over to 100 College Avenue probably in the new year, which makes a lot of sense. It was done really as on a necessity because the United Way, I think, was trying to free up some space, but in a lot of ways it makes sense to have our business services and our career services under one roof. So it's St. Paul. And when I say St. Paul, I mean 691 St. Paul. This is the county DHS. We have a career center, again, a very big career center. It's actually very good space over there. I wish Viata might roll her eyes, but I wish the space at 100 College Avenue was as good as the space that had adaptable space like our 691 St. Paul location does. The parking at 691 St. Paul is the biggest challenge. That's really it's not suitable and for kind of a influx of people nor visitors from an executive director who's always looking to find parking for 15 minutes. But the computer lab is there and is a resource for people seeking temporary assistance who are seeking our services as well. The wage subsidy program provides intensive job readiness training in order to prepare and place customers in competitive employment utilizing a wage subsidy. Job readiness training is really, that's something for, I would say, lower skill individuals who might need some soft skills. A lot of times when we're talking about job placement, you need to really talk about job readiness training first. A good example is our Rock Seats program, which we're placing 18 to 24-year-olds who, before we even talk about a job placement, we're wanting to put them through several hours of job readiness training that kind of goes through some of the things that other people might be inherent to them, but a lot of soft skills and what to expect in the workforce. Our board member Tyrone Reeves does a great job in reinforcing the need to, before you put somebody into a full-time work setting, and in fairness to both the employee and the employer, you want to make sure the employee knows what he or she is getting into. And job readiness training is really valuable in that. We do a lot of employability assessments called EAs, and they provide kind of a, it's really, as it says, it looks at kind of the person's background, their work history, their skill set, as well as what they might be interested in doing. And then our work experience program, which unfortunately was suspended during COVID as a result of the loss of some state funding, has not been started up again, but really was a primary activity over at the 691 Center, and a good program. And we've been talking to the county and encouraging them to bring that back, and hopefully that'll happen. But I know that they're still trying to figure out perhaps what they want to do with these programs, and that's understandable because I think we're still kind of figuring out what our new baseline is. But and that also was a primary source of revenue. And one thing about the St. Paul Career Center, which I'll just say frankly, it's the money we receive is non-WIOA funding. So in some ways, I don't want to say this was St. Paul as a revenue generator for our other activities, but it does provide us some what you would less restrictive funding opportunities or revenue that we can use for other areas in our organization. So that's an overview of our 691 St. Paul. A little bit further south, down on St. Paul Street, as I said, we have a joint location with the city of Rochester. It's now the named after the council president, who is I've known her for years, and I'm embarrassed. Please don't tell her. Her name is Loretta Scott. Thank you, Council President Loretta Scott. Building, it's 57 St. Paul Street. I'm gonna have to call Loretta now to apologize, but our youth services, and it's largely WIOA funding, some state TANF funding, but their job is to serve 13 to 24-year-olds. Actually, Antoine, that should be 13, right?
14.
It is 14. Okay, good. See, still a learning curve. I've only been here 4 months. Our youth navigator services, when I talked earlier about community partners, our youth navigator program really is the essence of that. We partner with half a dozen human service agencies, not-for-profits in our area. And, as it suggests, youth navigator services, I almost consider it like managed care for workforce development. It provides mentoring, it provides counseling, but really taking someone in between that 17 to 24 cohort and helping them navigate the system, looking at their skills, looking at what training they might need, what they might want to do, and helping them on that pathway. Our summer youth employment program, it's run in cooperation with the city of Rochester's SOUP program. That's not going to change. We'll be running a jointly operated, not a joint program, but a co-operated summer employment program. The cities is structured a little bit differently than ours. They have a little bit more flexibility. But we do that, and our goal is to make sure, and we do things in concert with them, but our goal is to make sure that we're not being redundant. So coordination with that is really key. And pre-COVID, we were serving several hundred youth, and it's a 6-week program in the summer of paid work experience. We partner with a lot of community partners. A lot of our community-based organizations set up really good work experience programs. And it picked up again in 2021. It still wasn't anywhere near 2019 levels, but that's really very key right now. If we think about the challenges we face, and it's a segue to the next portion, but serving our youth really is a focus of ours, and one that will need to continue. And that starts obviously not just when they're out of high school. We need to start when they're in high school, as that program does. And then this is a temporary program, but our gun violence prevention program, Antoine and his team and Theo are currently administering $2.25 million program on behalf of New York State to provide job readiness training, career pathways for youth living in zip codes most impacted by gun violence. In some ways, that is a enhancement of our youth navigator services program, but we're also looking to utilize other community-based organizations. Antoine and I have really been pounding the pavement and trying to engage members of our, the people who are most connected with the youth living in these zip codes. And our goal is to really think a little bit outside the box of how we generally administer these programs, perhaps a little less on the regulatory side and cumbersome application side to ensure that we have that grassroots participation. And then finally, business services, which is now headed up by Laura Seelman, and will be relocated to 100 College Avenue. Plainly, our business services bridges the gap between job seekers and employers. They are a primary connection to our business community. Their job is to educate our business community on what opportunities and resources we have here at RochesterWorks, and also managing expectations. Again, it goes back to the what we're not, but we want to make sure we're not in talking about what we're not. We want to make sure we're tripling up on what we are. And I think we do have a number of resources available for our business community that can be of value, especially now as they're looking to kind of navigate this new normal of job recruitment. And that includes on-the-job training grants, which help hire and train the right candidate to fill open positions. It's pretty much as the name suggests. Work experience tryouts. We do have a job board, which we provide free job postings. That's an effective tool because it's a pretty solid link to our career advisors as well. You're in that system, and at any time we have several hundred job postings on that job board. It's obviously not the sole job board in Rochester and Monroe County. There's a number of avenues, but again, this provides a direct link to our system and some alignment with that. So we do encourage employers to utilize that. We do targeted recruitment for specific industries, and we're starting to do more of this. Tomorrow actually will be our first, but we're going to be doing a few a month where we'll have employers, and tomorrow we're having 2 employers at our career center and encouraging people to come. It's somewhat informal, but that's a kind of, think of that as a micro recruiting effort versus our career fairs, which are larger and kind of, you can kill many birds with one stone. The targeted recruitment efforts are very effective. We did do them during COVID virtually, but now that we're getting back into person, I will say we're very encouraged. We have, I think, over 24 people signed up for tomorrow's event. So that's good because it's value to the employers. And it also is helpful to kind of efficiently connect job seekers with those employers. And again, in alignment with our career center. We want people walking through the doors of our career center because we want them participating in our programs. Career fairs, we do one large career fair pre-COVID at MCC every year, but also many other smaller and moderately sized career fairs. We just had one 2 weeks ago at the Art Gallery, which was very successful in my opinion, because it's probably the largest attendance of any in-person job fair since COVID in the region. We're also going to be doing smaller career fairs. We're going to be bringing back an iteration of an initiative where, in joint partnership with Monroe County, we'll be kind of visiting different communities and having smaller targeted job fairs. We also are going to be investing in virtual job fair software, which I know Randy Andres on the phone from DOL, on the call from DOL, and DOL has been able to do this successfully, but it's obviously a tool you need in your toolbox for us. So we are going to be looking to procure that and allow that to kind of thread it in with our in-person recruitment events. And we do employer spotlights as well, which again, as the name suggests, we want to be able to, if you're an employer, right now it's employers are reaching out to saying, we want a booth at your job fair. Well, sometimes that's hard because the previous one we had filled up in a matter of hours. We want to be able to provide them other alternatives that we might be able to say, look, future job fairs, of course, but in the interim, here's something we can provide that really gives you a lot more quality interactions with people who are seeking you out and are interested. Supportive services is kind of a standalone. We work with community partners on supportive services, and that can include childcare, transportation allowances, needs-related payments. That can be incorporated into somebody's WIOA funded services we provide. We also sometimes do make referrals to community partners, and they are provided to both youth and adult customers based on need. And that's a conversation that's growing in relevance. I think the need to have supportive services is more, I guess, relevant than ever before. If you're talking about breaking down walls and silos, and barriers and providing all, interventions to those barriers. Those supportive services really are key. And one thing I'll say is we look to, utilize an influx, I hope an influx of federal funding, ARPA funding for workforce development, that these supportive services really are going to be key. And obviously childcare is always going to be the toughest one to crack and the most expensive one. But I really do think we have an opportunity to kind of think holistically as to how we approach those supportive services and enhance them and make them more effective. One-stop partners, WIOA, which I've referenced, this is a poorly structured PowerPoint because I've referenced WIOA many times, but it's not going to be described until a subsequent slide. But WIOA, it's the federal law that we operate under, requires coordination and if possible co-location with specific partners in the workforce development community designated by particular state or federal programs to administer workforce services. We contract with a one-stop operator, which we procured over the summer to facilitate coordination between these many partners. And these are pretty much anyone you can imagine that provides workforce development services. They are included, whether they're government partners, community-based organizations. And a lot of those are designated through federally established needs that you have to have filled in. But we also work with many community-based organizations through our Youth Navigator Summer Employment Program, and also in providing essential wraparound services. How we work. Okay, so finally, WIOA. And this is probably the least interesting because it's just our funding apparatus, but the Federal Innovation Opportunity Act 2014 replaced WIA, and in some ways its primary goal was to kind of solidify the one-stop shop model, but also ensure that business needs were kind of front and center to an alignment with workforce development. Theoretically, it increased access to education, training, and employment. Unfortunately, our WIOA allocation has not, increased much over the past decade. It's actually, if you look at kind of real wages or revenue, it's decreased, which hopefully with the reauthorization of WIOA, which might be pending, but also the passage of the Build Back Better Act, there will be an enhancement to WIOA funds, which will allow us to do more. And you can look at some of the parameters and what WIOA looks to accomplish. I've kind of already established what a lot of those are in describing what we do. But again, WIOA is the federal law. The State Department of Labor administers those WIOA funds and distributes them to workforce development boards and other agencies and local governments on behalf of the federal government. They must be in compliance with federal law, so they're regulated by the federal government and must demonstrate that they're administering the programs in compliance with WIOA. So that's why we have a very tight relationship with the Department of Labor, the State Department of Labor, I'll say. The State Department of Labor provides a lot of monitoring and auditing, which we are happy to comply with and adhere to. And we do that understanding that the state has to answer to the federal government and ensure that all of their workforce development boards collectively are in compliance with WIOA. So the state's workforce system per se, which is the sum of all the parts, is compliant. WIOA is generally broken up into three primary pots: adult, dislocated worker, and youth 17 to 24. Dislocated worker is unemployed worker, and can encompass some other things, but largely adult dislocated workers who are unemployed. In our youth, which Antoine administers over at 57 St. Paul. Most of that money is in the adult and dislocated worker programs, but as a whole, all combined, we received about $5.5 million in WIOA funds to our local workforce development area. And as I said, we do this with the oversight of New York State Department of Labor. We do receive other sources of funding that includes national dislocated worker grants. Those target workers subjected to wide-scale layoffs. We do have a very successful opioid national grant, emergency dislocated workers grant, and that provides services and job training to those impacted by the opioid epidemic. A lot of those career pathways are peer counseling certifications. So people who are survivors of addiction want to help with the crisis, manage the crisis, and in seeking career pathways are looking to be peer advisors. I have good news. We actually have just received a pretty substantial grant from Mother Cabrini and from ESL, although we would probably be flexible with the funding that will allow us to enhance these programs. The opioid program, I will say, so we'll have more about that. We'll probably, I think, have a report on that at our meeting in a few weeks, but very good. And I think there's a lot of opportunity with that opioid program. Federal Trade Adjustment Act. Admittedly, I hear a lot about this program and funding stream, although it's not relatively large relative to everything we do, but it serves workers whose jobs are threatened or eliminated because of foreign trade. New York State TANF, temporary assistance to needy families, provides our funding for summer youth employment and sometimes extended summer youth employment. And again, that targets youth between the ages of 14 and 20. And then, of course, our great partners over at Monroe County DHS, as I described, we receive revenue by administering employment and job readiness services on their behalf. And then there's some non-recurring fund programs, the Rock Seeds program, which is state funds. That was a direct placement program for youth, primarily living in those zip codes impacted by gun violence. A small cohort of about 50, but really provided us with some valuable learning lessons as we pivot to this larger gun violence prevention program. The Rock Seeds was more, it's challenging because we had to work and provide a lot of job readiness training. And as we already knew this, but every step of the way, there's barriers that are going to threaten somebody's participation. So Antoine and Theo worked very hard to help retain people in that program and get them through. And I think now we've had some success in placement. And Tyrone Reeves has been a very good partner with the AMTEP, his program. But Rock Seeds, I think, is going to be a success. It's been a lot of legwork for a relatively small number of placements, but provided some very good learning opportunities. And that is all I have. I'm running out of my voice, but if anyone has any questions, again, we're going to make this available for recording. And this is obviously non-exhaustive. There's a lot more to what we do. And if there's ever any topic that our board wishes to, have at their disposal or converse upon, we are more than happy to answer those and be attentive to those. And again, I'm grateful for everyone who was able to participate on this. I hope you found it valuable. We're not going to make this part of your continuing education as board members, but hope it's provided a little glimpse and overview as to the work that you do on our behalf and why you are important in all of this. Are there any questions?
Question. Thanks, Dave.
right.
Good morning, everybody. Rod Cox Cooper, Workforce Development Institute. You had a slide there about supportive services, which is really great to see. In terms of accessing those services, though, who would be the contact person for RochesterWorks right now?
It could be, it depends on how old the person is. If they're someone who would be served by our youth services, it would be Antoine and his team. If it is somebody who is an adult or displaced worker, it would be over at our career center at 100 College Avenue. So it would be Viata or Antoine.
Okay. And then are those parameters stated on the website, or are they in print somewhere where we might be able to learn more about what exactly is available?
Sure, they are. Our website has a lot of information. It's not, we're actually going to be doing a website overhaul and facelift, thankfully, but our website has a lot of information I think needs to be rethought as to how the flow of information is presented. But it's somewhere, it likely is on there. And if people have difficulty finding it, they should call our career center.
Okay, great. And then finally, Workforce Development Institute offers childcare subsidies in Monroe County, and folks are not always aware of that. So I want to make sure that that's known. We have an associate in Monroe County, Nikita Davis. I'd like to introduce her maybe to Viata, or I'm not sure who. Maybe I'll start there. Typically, our funding can support families who are above the poverty line in terms of DHS guidelines. So we're able to capture folks that have been rejected by DHS and essentially help more families. So, and we've got an influx now federally. So there's going to be more money available than before for this year and next year, as far as we know. So we want to make sure we get that out to folks as well. So maybe Viata, if you can you shoot me your email and let's connect after this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so I'll share it, and I don't want to belabor this, but you know, Lee pointed out to us that where it is on the website, and it's a good microcosm as to, you know, I think how we can improve our website. The supportive services are actually on the Workforce Development Board, which there's a reason for that, is because you dictate the policy regarding supportive services. So there's the policy right there. But again, we shouldn't expect a consumer to go and read the policy, right? They just want to know what the supportive services are. Nobody who benefits from a law is actually reading the law. So it helps reinforce rather the need to make sure that, you know, we're simplifying how people access information for us, and that's the goal, because it's challenging because it's so comprehensive of what we offer, and we offer such a broad spectrum of things. But you know, that's just one of our inherent challenges. So thank you for pointing that out. And thank you, Randy Lee beat you to the punch, but you were on it as well. Any further questions? All right, everyone. Well, I will see you all in a few weeks. In the interim, be safe, and thank you again for participating. I'm very pleasant to see how many people were on, and I appreciate your willingness to kind of either refresh or learn a little bit more about what we do. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dave. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.